All right, let's talk about what's happening right now in software development. Because we're in the middle of this massive shift. And look, this isn't just about another tool or a fancy new framework. No, this is a fundamental change, powered by AI that's evolving from a simple little helper into a genuine engineering partner. And of course, that leads to the question, the one on pretty much every developer's mind right now. You see the headlines, you hear all the hype about these new autonomous agents, and it's totally natural to wonder, are my skills about to become obsolete? But here's the twist. The answer, at least from the engineers who are deep in this stuff, is a resounding no. They don't see replacement at all. They see amplification. This new wave of AI isn't here to take your job. It's here to give you a promotion. Now, to really wrap your head around this, you have to think way beyond the autocomplete we've gotten used to. We've all been using tools that suggest the next line of code for a while now, but what we're talking about today, well, it's in a completely different league. So let me introduce you to Claude Code. This is not another IDE plugin that just finishes your sentences. Think of it as an agent right there in your terminal that can read, understand, and actually take action on your entire code base. It's less like a spell checker and way more like a sharp junior developer that you can direct and collaborate with, just using plain English. And that leap from assistant to agent, that's the core idea here. And trust me, it's not just some marketing buzzword. It represents a fundamental change in what these tools are capable of, and more importantly, how we're going to work with them. So let's break that down, right? An assistant, something like GitHub Copilot, it works at the micro level. It helps you write the code pretty much line by line in a single file. An agent, on the other hand, operates at the macro level. It sees the whole system, it can execute really complex tasks across hundreds of files. And that means your role shifts from being the writer to being the architect. You direct, it builds. Okay, so what does this actually look like in practice? How does it make you more productive? Let's dive into some of the real-world workflows that senior engineers are using to get those almost mythical 10x results we hear about. Just think about the last time you joined a new project. Remember that feeling? How long did it take to really get up to speed? Days? Weeks even? Well, with an agent, you can just ask. You can ask high-level architectural questions. It scans everything, the code, the dependencies, even the Git history, and gives you an expert summary in minutes. That whole onboarding process is now compressed into the time it takes to drink a cup of coffee. And this is where the power of an agent really, truly shines. Think about a massive refactoring job. For a human, it's tedious, it's boring, and it's so easy to make a mistake. For an agent, it's just a simple command. You state the goal, the agent goes off and rewrites hundreds of files at once, and your only job is to review the final pull request. It's a total game changer. Oh, and debugging, another huge time sink that's being completely transformed. Instead of manually tracing an error through a dozen different files and services, you can now just feed the stack trace to Claude Code. It'll follow that whole execution path across the entire repo, pinpoint the root cause, and very often it'll propose the exact patch you need to fix it. Hours become minutes. When you put all these individual gains together, they start adding up to something much, much bigger. We're talking about a completely new way of working. And people are already starting to give it a name: AI agent engineering. This quote really nails it. You're no longer on the factory floor assembling every little piece by hand. You're now the factory manager. You're the one designing the blueprints and orchestrating your team of AI agents to do the actual construction. So the whole development workflow starts to look like this continuous loop, where you're operating at a much higher level of abstraction. You define what needs to be built, the agent writes the code, your CI/CD pipeline runs the tests automatically, and if they fail, the agent is prompted to fix its own work. Once everything passes, it just packages it all up in a neat PR, ready for your final approval. Now, with all this incredible potential, it's probably a good time for a little reality check. How real is all this today? And what are the challenges we really need to be watching out for? First off, let's be clear. This is not some niche experimental tool. We're talking about around 29 million installs of Claude Code on VS Code alone. The adoption is happening at a massive scale, and it is happening incredibly fast. So where does Claude Code actually fit in this growing landscape? Well, it's definitely a huge step beyond simple autocomplete, but the key difference is that a command line agent like this works inside your existing setup, your favorite terminal, your editor. An AI IDE like Cursor, on the other hand, is the setup. It wants to replace your whole environment. Claude Code is all about augmenting your workflow, not replacing it. But, it's not all smooth sailing. When you give an AI agent full access to your code and your terminal, you are creating a brand new attack surface. And sure enough, security researchers have already found and thankfully patched some pretty critical vulnerabilities in Claude Code. It's a crucial reminder that with all this power comes new responsibilities and completely new risks. Okay, so let's bring it all home. What does all of this mean for your career right now? What skills should you be focused on developing? The bottom line is, your value as a developer is shifting. Memorizing the exact syntax of a language becomes a lot less important when an agent can generate it perfectly every time. But what becomes exponentially more valuable are the skills the AI doesn't have. Thinking about system architecture, having a deep understanding of the product, and applying the critical thinking needed to guide the AI's work and review its output. And this right here is probably the most important takeaway of all. This technology is a force multiplier. It's a tool that gives an experienced developer the leverage to build at the speed of an entire team. The core skills of great engineering, architecture, design, critical review, they aren't being replaced. In fact, they're being placed at an absolute premium. They're more valuable than ever. So we'll end on this question. When all the tedious, line-by-line implementation is handled by an agent, it frees up our human creativity, our intellect, to focus on bigger, harder, more interesting problems. The barrier to turning a great idea into reality is getting lower every single day. The only question left is, what will you choose to build?